City building games have been around for a long time, starting with SimCity Classic back in 1989 through SimCity 4 in 2003. The mantle of city building games has been picked up by City Skylines, released in 2014 by the studio Colossal. There is no doubt that this game is more realistic than SimCity Classic. In SimCity, the zones had to be square, and the most realistic part of the game, and the most fun, was destroying your city. Fast forward to today, where every citizen in your City Skyline city has a name. They get an education, they get a job, they grow old, if your healthcare system is good, and die. Clearly, the simulation in City Skylines is getting closer to approximating real life. But how close is it? And how does it compare to the tools planners use to simulate real cities? Let's go find out. The obvious way to do this video is to play through the game and point out every little place where the game doesn't quite match reality. Mixed-use zones. But I think that's kind of a negative way to go about this topic. I mean, no simulation is going to match reality 100% of the time, unless real life is the simulation. Whoa. But it's pretty obvious to anybody who's played this game on anything other than a top-of-the-line machine that this game is doing some serious processing to simulate all the systems in a city, from traffic to land use, hydrology, weather, trash collection, even dead body collection. But are they based in reality? Instead of making some educated guesses, I thought I'd ask the folks at Colossal if I could talk to a game designer and get the information straight from the source. And surprisingly, they said yes.
Yeah, I'm Miska Fredman. I'm a game designer working for Colossal, and yeah, we've been doing City Skylines for a while already.
How much effort goes into kind of looking at what actual cities are like when you're starting to plan out the game or plan out a DLC? Like, how much of it is inspiration from real life, and how much of it is kind of more the technical aspects of like what can be done? And
yeah, one of the main pillars of the design is that it's grounded in reality. So we try to look things from like the realistic perspective. So we are not going like a totally fantastic or like futuristic or so. So we try to think how things are really done in real life, and then like implement it into gameplay. And of course, we need to think about the gameplay and how it feels, what kind of experience it produces for the player. So that's an important thing, and there we sometimes have to do some kind of compromises how we actually implement the like certain features in the game.
Right. And when you're talking about kind of looking at real life, is it based on, sort of your experience? I mean, of course, you probably inhabit a city, or, I mean, are you looking at outside sources like books or other sort of simulations, or how do you draw upon sort of the real world when you're sort of informing the game?
Yeah, well, a bit of both and something else also. So, yeah, well, one thing is like drawing inspiration from like your own experiences and real life, and another thing is that like a different kind of like articles and whatever you can get your hands on, and I must admit that we could have like a more academic approach to things, but it's just like a matter of fact that there isn't always enough time to get familiar as possible with everything.
No, it's okay. I am an academic, so it hurts me a little bit to hear you say that, but that's okay. I also understand that it's really tedious to read articles.
Yeah. That takes time, and of course, like we try to let's say like economics and different sort of stuff, like what we did in a recent DLC where there's like more industry and so on. Mm-hmm. We tried to do like a different kind of production chains there that are like based on how production chains actually go in industry, but then again, like we had to simplify things and make it like playable in a sense. How we approach the whole like a traffic simulation and everything involved with that was like one of the goals was to have like a city that can support like 1 million citizens, and we wanted to have that there is like a real the real life busyness in the city, like if there is a company and people working for it, they actually go to work, and the company like gets products elsewhere, and then whatever they produced, the goods they then transport elsewhere, like to some like a commercial zones and so on. So there are like a different agents working in the game. For example, like all of the vehicles, they have a starting point and they have like a home where they start from, and then they plan the path where like how they are going to go to their destination, and that's calculated like early on, and that kind of affects like how they proceed on like when they travel. But in general, we wanted to have that so that it feels like lifelike. Like there's actually like vehicles going from places. They are not just like going around the city to like create traffic.
At this point, I asked the long-winded question about fun versus complexity. Like, is it too complex to add considerations of topography and gravity to the water system?
Like you can add quite a lot of complexity into game, and it's not necessarily even like technical restriction. But then you come this like how much you want complexity to add it into the game, and then you need to think about it like okay, I know the gravitation thing with water systems, that's like a very very good nice idea, but it might complicate it so that some players might feel it's too complex, and it's easier to have like a bit simpler system.
I know you can't like break any news here, but like, are there sort of features that are either upcoming or you would like to see added that sort of kind of add an additional dose of realism or come closer to approximating what a real city is like?
Mm-hmm. I don't really have like a what could I say? But, well, like yeah, well, yeah, we're still working on city skylines, but I cannot say like how much I can say more about that. We are of course like working on very interesting stuff and making new interesting things for you people.
It's clear from what Miska said that the point of the game isn't to be an 100% exact copy of a city, but for it to resemble a city in a way that makes it fun. It is a game after all. But the game designers did make one key decision to make it feel more real. They made it an agent-based model. What is that exactly? Colossal Order filled the game with agents. What are agents? They are individuals essentially running their own autonomous models and are empowered to make decisions based on their interactions with other agents in the environment. Agents take multiple forms, including land parcels, vehicles, trees, and people. Sims, as they're called in the game, have a home, a workplace, an age, education, health, and they commute. They are empowered to do things like move out of the city if things get too bad for them for any of the characteristics I just mentioned. Agents are a way to simulate a city, but what's the alternative? Game designers use statistical models that aren't made of distinct agents. Imagine pedestrians in city skylines for a second. In an agent-based model, all of the people are agents moving from an origin to a destination. You can click on them and see their names and attributes. In a statistical pedestrian system, the game would determine the correct number of pedestrians that should appear on this block based on attributes like land use density and the relative importance of that sidewalk segment in the larger transportation system. In both cases, you would probably see a similar number of people walking on the street, but they would be generated in a very different way. If the end result looks similar, then why use an agent-based approach? I mean, it uses a lot of computational resources to generate all those agents. In fact, there's a limit to the number of agents the game can simulate at any one time. The trade-off for all those computational resources is realness. Players aren't simply manipulating a statistical model, but shaping a city for real-ish Sims. When you delete a road, you're forcing autonomous agents to rethink how they get somewhere. You can see it happening in real time to those vehicles. If anything, I'd hope to see future city-building games give more agency to the citizens of the city. They should have opinions about how the mayor is doing and be able to resist certain actions a player wants to take. Let's start simulating local politics. That's adding realism to city games. Because of the realism agent-based models bring, they're used in software used by real city planners and researchers. One industry-leading software package is called UrbanSim. It doesn't model individuals in the same way as city skylines, but it does model parcels of land, households, and jobs. To use UrbanSim, you feed it data about the city. Things like parcel boundaries, streets, current population, and employment statistics. UrbanSim then projects things in the future like population and employment growth and decline, as well as new building construction. It uses several separate models that feed into each other. First, it simulates households and businesses moving and making choices about where to locate as the city or regional economy grows. This change in demand triggers the real estate models to simulate the construction of new housing and non-residential buildings to match the demand, keeping in mind development constraints. Real estate prices are simulated too and factor into the artificial real estate market. Cities and regions use this tool to develop and test growth scenarios. The result of an UrbanSim model run gives you year-by-year projections of population and jobs that can help planners and policymakers understand the impact of proposed policies that affect housing markets or labor markets. Unlike City Skylines, where you want to be able to see the simulation running in real time, UrbanSim processes that data through their models and spits out the results after it's done. It's sort of like if you plan new zones, transit lines, and districts in City Skylines and then turned off your monitor. You could turn your monitor on once per game year to grab a screenshot, record some key data points like population and income, and then you had to shut the monitor off again, and did that process 30 or 40 more times. So the purpose of City Skylines is different than that of UrbanSim, but in some ways they're very similar pieces of software. They both are trying to simulate agents in a virtual city, and they're trying to make their simulations as realistic as possible. City Skylines puts more of an emphasis on fun, but it's still an impressive feat of software. So like I said, we could quibble about all the ways City Skylines is unrealistic, but I'd rather focus on the ways that it is realistic. It can do some things that industry-leading software can't do, and it does it all in beautiful 3D and in real time. There's definitely room for improvement, but it's pretty darn good right now. You know what else is darn good right now? All the courses you can check out over at Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creators with more than 25,000 classes in design, business, and more. I'm going to admit something to you right now. The audio in my last video was kind of a mess. I tried to level out the audio gain between clips, but ended up making things worse. After I posted the video, I knew I had to step up my game, so I went right to Skillshare. There were tons of videos about editing in Adobe Premiere and Adobe Audition, and I learned what I needed to do, so it's not a problem in this video, I hope. If you want to fuel your creativity, curiosity, or career, give Skillshare Premium a try. The first 500 viewers who use this link in the description will get a 2-month free trial of Skillshare Premium. And if you decide you love it, an annual subscription is super affordable, at less than $10 per month. Go check it out now.